BRICS has now reached the point where they are trading in Chinese currency amongst 185 countries.
That's big.
185 countries are now part of this program. And guys, everyone knows I am not the economics person, but Cyrus Jensen, who is somebody that I follow on YouTube, a few days ago, did a really great piece. I think I forwarded it to you about.
Yes, I think you have it. So if you want me to,
but no, I mean, that's too long. I just wanted you to see that. But then I think I sent you like an article that we could use to talk about what's going on. But essentially, BRICS is moving right along, and you wouldn't know that that's even happening here. Most people don't even know what BRICS is.
Well, he's kind of he's a redheaded guy with glasses, right? Is that him?
No, that's the history wizard. I'm talking about Cyrus Jensen has a YouTube channel, and he's got like half a million subs or more, or something like that. And I follow him, and he did a whole thing about the recent updates in BRICS and what is going on. And the fact is, they are moving right along. They're moving right along. And it's now 185 countries are able to trade on the Chinese currency, which is pretty massive. And there's still countries wanting to get into BRICS, but this is a big deal. And it has a lot to do with which countries and which people are investing in which other countries and their bonds. And this is what has happened recently, which is the Chinese blah, blah, whatever it is. Whatever their thing is, their blank bond, RB, it's like RBs or something,
yes.
That were not very valuable are now very valuable. And people are investing in China. Other countries are investing in China. And this is all happening. And we're just pretending. Well, we're not pretending, but we're being stifled from knowing. We're being censored from knowing that that's even going on. And one day people are going to it's going to be a very rude awakening for your typical mainstream media viewer in this country, when all of a sudden their dollar is completely worthless and they have nothing.
Well, it's not going to be worthless, but it's certainly going to be worth a hell of a lot less than it is right now. And if you think we're in bad economic straits, trust me, this is why we're heading for a revolution in this country. It's one of many reasons. But let the history wizard explain exactly how this ties in with what's going on in Venezuela, because, again, this is very significant. Why we really don't know when to stop expanding militarily. This is how all empires throughout history fall. It is history repeating itself, not once or twice, but between a half a dozen to a dozen times. So here.
And what is stage 6 of the 7 stages? Stage 6 of the 7 stages of collapse of empire. So stage 6 is you're no longer the global currency. When that's stage 6, and we're just about at that of 7 stages. So just for
gonna kill people that are bringing drugs into our country.
Take a look at this map showing the U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean in the last few weeks. The U.S. has already airstriked a bunch of fishing boats. What is happening here? Well, the Trump administration says that they're confronting the Maduro government in Venezuela for smuggling drugs into the United States. The only problem is Venezuela doesn't account for much of the drugs coming to the US. So why do this? To understand the real reasons behind this, I want to take you back to a private meeting that happened in Washington last month, where the World Bank, the International Monetary Fund, Barclays, and a bunch of hedge funds and investment firms had a meeting with Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado. On the agenda, investment opportunities in Venezuela after Nicolas Maduro is removed from power.
I mean, they're not even trying anymore.
No.
That's what you have to understand. They're not even trying. You know where the drug trading goes on in South America, right? It's not Venezuela to the person who just doesn't know any difference of one country to the other on the map. It's actually Colombia. And just remember, they could stop this at any time. Anyone who knows anything about the way things work in the United States, Drug smuggling would not exist if it wasn't so damn profitable. This is why the CIA backs it and has backed it forever. How do you think these cartels get to be as big as they are? But again, to the average person who doesn't know any better, this is what we're dealing with here. And in the case of Maduro, regardless of what you think of his politics, there's two big problems with Venezuela. Number one, their currency is attached to the US dollar. Hence why we're able to sanction the shit out of them into oblivion. Number two, they have the largest crude oil supply in the world under their soil. And guess what? President Maduro does not want to do business the United States way. He would rather trade with other countries like China and Russia. Why? Because they don't charge as much, among other reasons. And since we just believe in might makes right, as you like to say, Jen, we just think, what the hell? We'll come up with some stupid reason to invade the country.
There's a lot of variables. It isn't just that, but there's, yes, there's natural resources. They have a lot of rare earth minerals. There's a lot of stuff in Venezuela, but it's so much more than that. And it has to do with that we're not faring well in other places. And we're really looking at this from the perspective of, okay, well, things aren't going so well in West Asia right now. And well, we're going to need to have a good source of our fossil fuel. So we better be making sure that we have complete control of this hemisphere. So we're back to the whole Monroe Doctrine thing. I want to say, I saw somebody in the chat saying something about BRICS is not the reason we're collapsing. Absolutely not. I don't think BRICS is the reason that American empire is collapsing. American empire is collapsing because it needs to. It's run its course. It jumped the shark. But I do think that BRICS doing whatever it's doing behind the scenes that we don't know about, that's going to cause our currency to not be the global currency, is what is then stage 6 of the 7 stages of empire collapse. So yeah, it's part of it.
And what would be the biggest investment opportunities in a Venezuela that's more friendly to the West? Of course, it's oil. Venezuela has the largest proven reserves of oil in the entire world. The big oil companies want in on the action, but they had to leave Venezuela when Hugo Chavez kicked them out. They would love to get back in, but first they need Maduro out of the way. And it looks like the Trump administration is happy to oblige. Leading this charge is Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Rubio wants regime change in Venezuela, mostly for ideological reasons, like fighting socialism. But he's been super successful in swaying President Trump towards this conflict. Trump has wanted regime change in Venezuela for ages, primarily because he wants their oil. Earlier this year, Trump nearly made a deal with Maduro to ease up pressure on Venezuela. In return, Venezuela would stop sending oil to China and would open its oil reserves to American companies. But Rubio, he hated this deal. So,
Yep. See, Maduro was willing to do business with us. They wanted to do business with us. They would like to have the economic boot off of their neck and work with us. We are not capable of that kind of, camaraderie.
The problem is, little Marco, he's about a foot shorter than me, and he's always jumping up and down telling me, why can't I be more like you, Donnie? Why can't I be more like you? Well, you got to go out and make some deals, make a big deal. You never know what you can do. And we had a really great deal working with Venezuela, and he decided to ruin it. He's really a terrible person, but I have to play nice because, the Latino vote, it's very important for the GOP. That's how it works.
No, Miriam Adelson bought Marco Rubio's seat.
She bought a lot of people.
he convinced Trump that it would just be easier to remove Maduro from power and take Venezuelan oil by force.
Oh, yeah.
Oil companies are, of course, cheerleading this conflict. Chevron currently operates in Venezuela with permission from the Trump administration, and they would be well positioned to take advantage of a new Western-friendly government. ExxonMobil has been covertly calling for regime change in Venezuela for years, funding think tanks and using them as a mouthpiece to call for a new government. ConocoPhillips has been suing the Venezuelan government for years and recently won a judgment against them. And of course, all of these companies are major Trump donors. So needless to say, the vultures are circling and they're hoping for a kill. Watching all of this happen, I can't help but remember the Iraq War. An American president bent on regime change sells the conflict to the American people, claiming that a foreign government is an imminent criminal threat to the American way of life. Meanwhile, the true motivations are much more basic: capturing resources that benefit American corporations. In early 2001, the Bush administration and Dick Cheney were already holding meetings at the White House with oil companies. The topic of discussion, investment opportunities in a post-Saddam Hussein Iraq. There's still time to turn this around, but with Congress refusing to act as a check on the president, it's really hard to see who's going to stand in his way.
Yeah. I didn't know this. I didn't send you this. I thought the guy you were talking about was the history wizard before. The guy who has like the shaved head and the green and the painted nails.
Well, it's always good to get a video from a more perfect union. And, just remember, I took down Saddam and I went to Afghanistan and I kicked some tail. You know what I mean? By the way, before we move on, I just want to say that today was Dick Cheney's funeral. And did you see, Jen, were you paying attention? Who was at the funeral today? Did you bother to take a look at who showed up for my vice president's funeral? Did you see who was there?
No, but I knew I know why I feel the need to summon a coven.
Rachel Maddow showed up, and so did James Carville, and a few other prominent people. That's true bipartisanship. You got to appreciate that. You know what I'm saying?
I'm not engaging with this. With W.
Dick Cheney's funeral was today.
I am disgusted. The flags that are still flying at half staff, like the whole thing is so disgusting to me.
No, the best part about it is watching the shit libs say that he wasn't as bad as Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, really?
Sure.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of things that you could say about Donald Trump. If there's one thing you can definitively say about Dick Cheney that you can't truly say about Donald Trump, Dick Cheney is an historic mass murderer of the worst. Historic. In fact, he is somebody who is as responsible as anybody walking this earth ever since, if you were to make a true list, and I'm talking about a top tier list of the worst humans in American history since Jack's assassination, Cheney is right there. He is right there.
Oh, yeah.
He is right there with Kissinger. He is right there with Clinton.
It's Wolfowitz. It's Rumsfeld. There's a bunch of them. But yes, these are some evil, evil people. Yes.
So the idea that you think that you can just turn it on and off, no, you can't. The rewriting of history, they say history is written by the winners, and I get that.
Oh,
but despite all of that being said, the one thing that Trump has not done since he has become president, he hasn't officially started an actual hot war. And so leave it to friend of the show, Ryan Grimm, to explain exactly why Trump still has an opportunity here to be historically important, if not great, if he does the right thing with Venezuela.
Ryan Grimm, you posted Cartel de los Sols is the most obvious CIA made-up name for a cartel ever. No cartel names itself like that. This is a Langley creation, so finding a leader shouldn't be hard. Explain what you mean.
So the CIA is based in Langley, so that's what I mean. Now, if I was being a little obscure there, if they want to find out, who's responsible for creating this cartel, just pull out your Waze or your GPS and find your way out to CIA headquarters. I think Max could probably tell you more about the specific details of how this cartel came about, but it was effectively this bizarre creation where you've got the Defense Department, the CIA involved in some counter. They're trying to basically overthrow a government, and they need some narco terrorists for whatever play they're using, and so they kind of fabricate this cartel of the sun and call it cartel of the sun. It's like, what are you even doing? No, this is not even serious. Give us at least something that is plausible that we can cling to. What happened to the days where you're okay, maybe Saddam Hussein at one point did have weapons of mass destruction. He didn't then, but at least it's plausible. There's so little respect for the American people now that when they're trying to march them into war, they don't even give them something that they can even pretend to believe.
So what do you think they really want to do here?
Start a war.
Well, I think the Rubio wing, and I think we need to distinguish between President Trump and Rubio in this case. Rubio.
Could we just for a second, there are certain people in politics who deserve their own gravitas, for better or worse, based on their level of influence. There is no such thing as the Rubio wing of anything in politics.
That's what you're going on. That's funny.
If anybody is a puppet, and I mean a true puppet of corporate power, it's Marco Rubio.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't have an independent thought in his pea brain, 5'4" frame of his. Let me tell you something. People gave a lot of shit to 5'8" Governor DeSantis walking around in his platforms. You have never seen platforms until you've seen Marco Rubio walk on a stage. Period. Just putting that out there. You know how suspicious I get of people who are in positions of immense power, who are not tall, who end up doing really nefarious fucking things. And in the case of Rubio, this is a guy who is always trying to prove just how manly he really is. And I'm sorry, but
okay, can we also talk about the stuff that we do know for a fact, right? Like we could sit here and suppose and project a Napoleon complex onto little Rubio, but he does have such this like venomous hatred about Cuba. And all of this is kind of connected because while we're doing what we're doing in Venezuela, we're also lining up next to Cuba. And there was information out recently about how they are in a particularly vulnerable place right now economically. And so all of this is an opportunity, but someone like Rubio is very biased against socialism. And this person who's never set foot in Cuba has just so much hatred for that. And Venezuela has always he's had a hard on for Venezuela for a really long time as well.
Like I said,
socialism. It's the socialism.
Yeah. Marco Rubio is very close with Debbie Wasserman Schultz. And I always felt that he was somebody who kind of mirrored Hillary Clinton in terms of the neocon versus neolib, although Hillary Clinton's a neocon and a neolib, so it doesn't matter. Point is, Marco Rubio is basically Hillary Clinton in the GOP in so many respects, as far as what he would do if he truly had the levers of power. He's pretty high up there. Secretary of State's a pretty big position. No two ways.
And national security advisor. He's both.
Yeah. So he's a really big deal, really big deal. But let's finish out what Ryan has to say and why Trump still has an opportunity to do something of historic significance here if he chooses to go the right direction.
He's been boxed out of Ukraine, has been boxed out of Gaza. So he's got his little Caribbean sandbox here. Right. And what he is doing is playing out the fantasies of the Cuban right over the last couple of decades. And they want regime change in Venezuela, and they think that that'll have the knock-on effect of creating regime change back in Cuba. That's fine if the Cuban right wants to do that, but I don't understand why the United States would have to wage their war for them. The same kind of pressure was applied to President Obama when it came to Libya, and unfortunately for us, for Libya, for the region, Obama capitulated to that. And we now have this disastrous situation that the entire world is living with. I think Trump is aware that this kind of attempt to just decapitate a regime is likely to lead to another Libya situation. And so far, I think Trump actually deserves credit for standing up to this war hawk wing. And in fact, if he does stand them down and resist a war, I'd almost say you would give him credit for stopping a war, because to have a hawkish element, this committed to regime change and to be able to stop that, even as president, is not that simple.
Why? I don't know why he's saying it like we see President Trump trying to stop it. He's saying that like there's somehow evidence that Trump is standing up to the war hawks and the neocons. And I don't get that at all. So I don't know what Ryan is basing that on.
The only thing that I can equate it to is Trump loves flattery. He loves people to talk about him in very glowing terms. He's a really great person. I totally appreciate what Ryan Grimm had to say about me. Versus a person who, let's say, is in the press corps who wants to be antagonistic to him. You're a really terrible person. I totally hate your guts. So play into that simplistic worldview of Donald Trump. Tell him he's the greatest person ever if he prevents a war in Venezuela, that we don't actually need to do this. If that's what it takes, that's really not that much. It seems kind of simple if you ask me.